college counseling centers are saying, no, we look for like 10 different things. And that is 1 of 10. If they have 9 of the other things and they don't have that, we're not going to exclude them. But it is important to have some kind of therapy experience with that age group.
Right.
So if you've had it at the courts or if you've had it in other settings, you will have transferable skills.
Right.
Now the task then is for you to show that you have transferable skills. And so in that way, if you have a generalist sort of, if you have varied experiences, you have to really step away from the name or, one of the main things that you did to really look at, what are some basic elements, what are the work at this site, and what are some basic elements of this? Is there any way that I could apply what I learned here, there? And then how do I write that explicitly? And where you do that is on your cover letter. So essays, you write 1 essay. We don't recommend, and this is for all types of students. It's not student specific. We really don't recommend that you have multiple versions of your essays because one is hard enough.
It will make your hair fall out.
So that we don't want hair to fall out.
No.
So we want that to stay consistent. But
Right.
you do your cover letter is what is what's going to specifically link you. Years ago, like when I went through the process, they had a 5th essay, and the 5th essay was, how are you a good fit for this site?
Wow.
So then now
every
you have to do it and so you have to do a different 5th essay. Now they have gotten rid of that and replaced that with a cover letter. So that's the place. I mean, a lot of students feel like, where do I stand out? Or, I'm applying to so many different types of sites. How will this site know that I'm a great fit? The cover letter.
Cover letter, yeah.
The cover letter.
And with the cover letters, make sure you're applying to multiple sites. Make sure you set up a template. Okay, so it's going to make writing them a lot easier, especially when you're having to go through all of the brochures, pick out certain details to include in the cover letter. So give yourself some templates to work with. Like for me, I was applying to neuropsych sites and inpatient psychiatric hospitals. So I had those 2 templates to work off of, and that made things a lot smoother for that writing process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because for me, like VAs, I really played up my military experience. So, I had that template and I had places for that. But just the basic introductory, my previous experience. So you only really are working really with 2 paragraphs. And that will save you so much time because before you know it, it's like you got this place or that place and you're trying to apply, you're in classes, you're trying to catch back up on CRP. Like it's a lot going on at one time. So that's a really good idea.
Just a comment on the generalist question. Surprisingly, a lot of the forensic sites were their actual theoretical model was a generalist approach, and I was really surprised by that. But I applied to other sites like inpatient state hospitals, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've never worked in an inpatient setting before. And I had heard rumors like, oh, if you've never worked in an inpatient setting, you won't get interviewed. And I actually applied to a couple of community mental health and never had worked in a community mental health setting and got interviews. But I did have, some experience with serious mental illness just in a different setting. But it's also important to remember they don't want someone who knows how to do everything because they want to be able to train you and for you to learn. So I would go for it as long as you have some kind of experience in some way that you can kind of pull from when you're interviewing.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely great advice as far as just go for it. If you really want it, do it,
I had a question for cover letters. I know normally you kind of try to keep them pretty short for externship at least. Is there kind of a different rule for internship since you're trying to fit more information, or?
Internship is longer. I think mine was like 2 pages.
2 pages. I mean, but that's kind of like try not to go over that.
Don't go over 2 pages.
Yeah, I wouldn't go over 2 pages.
1.5, 2 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
2 pages is the long cover
I
letter.
think mine is about
Thank you.
Yeah, mine's about 1.5. Yeah.
Also, if a site tells you like they don't want something, So if you notice, they only ask for your cover letter, your application, and letters of recommendation. Don't send them extra materials just because I've heard of other students getting kickback of people being frustrated, thinking they didn't read the instructions correctly. I mean, if you're unsure, email them and ask. But if they don't want an assessment report, don't send them an assessment report, because that shows that you're not, paying attention to the details, and they don't want all that extra
Right.
Fogtown material.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think if you really are having trouble finding ways to relate your previous experience to what you think they may want, reach out to your faculty. Like they know
Oh,
your
yeah.
practicums. They'll say, oh yeah, well did you have any patients where you had to deal with this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, talk about that. Like they can really help you gear your previous experience in both your cover letter and how to talk about that in your interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So just really reach out to the people that actually know.
Yeah, and then as far as like some of your essays, for me, I really try to keep it very narrow. So the nice thing about integrative, when you take that class, I know for Dr. Heflin, one of our essays that we submitted for her was actually our theoretical orientation, and I think that goes across the board for them. So that's one essay for that particular class. Once I got the feedback from her, I incorporated, I sent it back to her. I was, that one was done. So that's one that will really be helpful for you. As far as my research one, send it to Dr. Warren. She's my chair. So, that helped. But for diversity, I work very closely and I have a good relationship with Dr. Aziz. So I reached out to her. So, I try to do it in ways like that. Faculty that really knows you, because I was being too careful on my diversity essays. So things like that I think would really be helpful. You just really don't, and I know Dr. Kabor said it, but don't send it to this person and that person, because you'll be forever making edits.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't want to do that. You really want to think about it ahead of time, even if it's this essay, I'm going to ask these professors about that. And the faculty has been really helpful, even with ranking. I mean, I talked to Dr. Lynch about my ranking for one place because I really, really wanted it, but, he gave me a really good gut check. So even thinking about, that, reaching out to them about specific things and what guidance they have, like I said, I really utilize the faculty a lot. They really help me.
So I have a question for you guys. Liv?
Yeah, I just want to clarify the essays now. I just heard Dee say you did 3 essays?
Well, you do 4.
Okay, so, but I thought it was just one.
No, you do diversity,
Oh, I see.
theoretical orientation.
One version of
Yeah.
this.
One version of each.
Okay,
Don't do
diversity?
multiple essays.
No.
And you have
So-
theoretical orientation,
Okay.
your research, and your autobiography. I think the autobiography one for me was
That's the hardest.
That's the
yeah,
hardest, right?
but that's why you really want to go, because you're gonna still do that, right, with the essays?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, we had a little
Okay.
session that we had to go to, and it was brainstorming, trying to help you write the essays, specific questions, kind of get you going. That was helpful.
Yeah, so the version piece is sometimes people, for example, that apply to counseling centers and inpatient psychiatric hospitals feel like, well, I have to talk about different things in my autobiography, for example, that
Okay.
appeal to these 2 sites, and so they think they should have 2 versions. So essentially, 2 autobiographical, 2 research,
Oh,
2.
gosh.
That's the version. No, don't
One
do
version
that.
of each
No.
of the
One
4.
version of 4 essays.
Yeah, and put that in your cover letter.
And what you alter
Special
is your
things.
cover letter.
Yeah.
Your cover
And then
letter
your
is
cover letter.
specific per
Yes.
site, and then you have your packet of essays
Mhm.
that are constant.
So
Yes.
we're right at 6 o'clock. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come and talk with us. Right before you go though, I have a quick question for you. Can you say a little bit, and we can do sort of round robin a little bit. Can you say a little bit about how much time you set aside for the application process? Let's say, just say maybe, May, June, July, August, September, over the months.
I know, look, we're all like, oh. Well, I'll be honest, I was a procrastinator and I was not a good girl. So you don't want to do what I did. So, I try to leave like listen to Jackie, who had everything done before it was even asked for. Never liked Jackie, she's always ahead of everybody. But for me, when I really did get into it, you know, because I had to, for me, because I know I'm not a person that can spread out the deadlines, so I went ahead and basically it was about a month for me. But don't do what I did, okay?
So what, in that month, how much time did you spend
Oh
on it?
gosh, that was like the month before classes started. Every day, and I planned out my day. Like, and that was a
So
whole
full-time.
entire month. If you think about it, daily I did something.
So essentially, if you like, you know,
if you were to
40
spread
hours,
it out, yeah,
spread it out over the summer.
yeah. And like I said, with comps,
Don't do
I
that.
can't. Don't do that. But for me, like once I have deadlines, I'm like boom, 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 I get them done. But don't do that. I would really highly recommend before comps, like the essays. I don't know if you guys agree, but I would try to at least get a draft of the essays before you start.
That was one of the questions.
Oh, before you start getting.
Oh, this, okay, okay.
Well, I mean, I would do the drafts for the essays before comps, because after comps, my brain was like scrambled eggs. I don't know what you guys.
It was done.
Yeah, so I would do that because that took the most out of me. Like the cover letters, I had a template.
What about you, Rachel?
So I started doing my research before comps, and also I did have my drafts, at least a draft done of my essays before comps, and I trickled that in throughout, you know, April and May. And then when I actually started really getting into things, I would spend my evenings. But I'm a person that can sit for like long periods of time and work longer hours. So I could have been doing like 4-hour stints of just sitting every evening. But I would say, you know, every month, I would say in the evenings, every week, yeah.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of your
Every
time.
day, daily in the evenings. But the ACME didn't, to address some of the rumors, for me, the ACME didn't take as long as what I had thought it was going to take, because I didn't have to worry about a previous master's since I did mine en route. So I do think that part was a little shorter for me than some of my other colleagues.
Yeah, it was painful. Do that now if you didn't get your master's here.
And for me, I stretched it out over the process. Brittany Lockley. So I started April, May. I've, you know, family life, a toddler running around, so I know I needed space to get things done. So once we started our workshops last year, then I started working on certain aspects of what the workshop was tailored to. So by the time we got to comps in early August, I had drafted the essays in late July, and had it to Dr. Gabor for review, so I could start editing that. So the last thing I had to do was do my templates for cover letters. So for me, I'm a planner, but I have work, family life as well. So I had to kind of get that started pretty early. So I would not recommend procrastinating.
No, don't do that.
Okay, so there are many ways to do this, as you see, but the thing not to do is to do what she
Don't
did.
procrastinate. Because
Don't
I'm used to getting
procrastinate.
deadlines
And I've had students in the past that say, you know, I'm good
under
under pressure, and you know that person didn't match, and so you know, don't procrastinate. Do a little bit at a time. If you have any questions, you know them, you can access them, but of course you're gonna have, you know, multiple other orientations. So you have many other opportunities to ask all your questions before you actually start doing stuff. Okay? Any last minute things? No? Don't forget your quiz. Make sure you sign the purple paper. And those of you on the phone, please be sure to